All righty. Being 10 o'clock, call the PBA, or the Public Improvements and Infrastructure Committee to order. Notice meeting was properly posted August 27th. Item 1 is discussion possible action on the minutes of August 17th. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Two, discussion possible action to receive an update on the Oklahoma County Office of Emergency Management outdoor warning device project. Mr. Barnes, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, this is your package, but I want to have printed copies for you.
Thank you. This was attached, so
It's already attached? Okay.
get that in there.
I just wanted to provide a brief update on the outdoor warning device or storm siren project that we've got going on out in the eastern part of Oklahoma County. We're getting ready to add, as we've discussed, 4 new devices. The map you see there in the legend at the far right, the very bottom, kind of a dark, I don't know if that's a green or what that is, that's indicative of the 4 devices. And you can see on the map right there, just inside the east boundary of Oklahoma County, you can see those devices scattered down through there. They're kind of similar to some down in Hera and some others, but you can tell the different shading. Those are the 4 devices that we're getting ready to install. Waiting on a final quote, working off state contract and working with our vendor, which is Goddard Enterprises, who is the guru for outdoor warning devices. My history for the last 40-plus years in Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, and multiple other areas, no doubt. They are certainly the subject matter experts. In fact, the senior has since passed, but his son has carried on the business, and that's who we're working with. But just wanted you to be aware, we have been coordinating this with Mr. Trumbo and his office. These are going in the right-of-way. He had another term for the inner edge of the right-of-way where people typically, when they run off the road, they don't quite get that far. But these are going in that territory in the effort to protect these devices. These are all standalone devices. They will not be tied to electric utility. They are solar powered, which provides the battery charger, and they actually run off of the batteries on the device themselves. Any questions on this project?
Where'd the funds come from?
I'm sorry?
Where did the funding come from?
The funding is part of something, leading question there, Joe.
It was.
Thank you. The funding is something that we've had on hand for a number of years. Actually came from an ice storm. Some of you may remember the infamous pilot project. The very first time FEMA attempted what they called pilot project, where they would come in, they would look at debris issues, they would estimate, and then reimburse upfront 75% of projected costs. This was ice storm, I believe it was 2007, and these are funds that they were over-projected, actually. They allowed us to keep those funds, went through multiple hoops to get these funds allocated. District 1 and others were quite helpful in transferring these because they had to be mitigation-related projects, so a portion of these funds were transferred to my department, and we've been able to leverage them with the approval of the state and FEMA on the projects. This is one of 3 projects that we're working on with those funds finally coming to fruition. Thank you for asking, Joe.
David, thanks.
As the eastern part of Oklahoma County expands with a lot of infrastructure improvements, what are the future plans for additional sirens in the population centers? And then it appears on the northwest in Deer Creek that those are the same colors as the 4 you're mentioning on the eastern Oklahoma County. Does that mean that you're in control of all of those, or are the ones in northwest planned as well?
No, those are actually devices that Deer Creek currently has in place. We have, I sent a request out to all jurisdictions in Oklahoma County about 2 weeks ago, and also mentioned at a recent Central Area Emergency Managers meeting to get updated information from every municipality of any changes they've made. So this map will likely be revised. I've gotten information from several jurisdictions that they've not made any modifications to their systems, but a couple of the smaller jurisdictions have, so you'll see a modified map. Deer Creek's are already in place. These are just the 4 devices on the east side of Oklahoma County. I'll go through that real quick. Looks like 178th or Edmond Road, 23rd Street, 63rd, and the final one is way south on Southeast 29th Street. You can see slightly darker shading. As far as future growth goes, I'm glad you asked that question. These locations, by the way, these were not willy-nilly just throw out there. We've actually worked with Mr. Brandt, and the information that we get through our GIS system and through planning and engineering, where growth has exponentially been expanding. It's also, they kind of follow along the Turnpike corridor, which is nice as well. But these are placed in locations where we've seen substantial growth, and it's based in great part on population density in these areas. There's obviously still a lot of open area, but when the population density doesn't justify limited resources, those sites are not at the top of the prioritization list. Good example of that's far northeast part of the county along the north edge, along Sorghum Mill, Waterloo, up in there. As population density increases in those areas, we will certainly be looking towards projects for those areas.
Good deal.
Any other questions?
So to that, kind of how you're working with engineering and planning, are they notifying you when new subdivisions are being platted, contemplated? How is that working, or are you just periodically going and?
It's periodically. When we have resources made available for a project like this, I go back to them and we get updates as far as what growth we've seen and where new housing additions, et cetera, are going in.
So, Stace, is it conceivable that when new additions are in the beginning stages, that we could just notify David and he could put them on his list as he's contemplating where we're going to go next?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else?
One project I did do, I'll bring up, when I was still at the city of Edmond, when developers would come in and want to develop particularly large portions of land, large tracts of land, I worked through the planning commission up there, and we were attempting to have actually a cost associated with it, sort of an impact fee. If I, for example, am a developer and I come in and I develop an entire mile section and put in 200 homes for, 600 people or whatever, there's a fee attached to that based on the geographic footprint, just like you would water, roadway, other things, to continue to expand the outdoor warning system as that progress is made. So something to kind of throw out there and let you have thought on.
I like that idea. Can we check on that and see?
That's really where these circles came from. I'm using a half-mile radius as a rule of thumb on each of these devices. I could list a dozen different factors that will influence that negatively and positively, but it's just kind of a visual representation of a projected footprint, really, more than anything else. Different devices have different decibel sound levels, terrain, topography, storm noise, wind. There's a lot of factors that will influence that, but it does give you a ballpark, at least a visual impact of where these devices are.
Do we have any capabilities to do a mass SMS to everybody in unincorporated areas, or to where we're bouncing text messages off of a tower and hitting everybody that's on that tower at that time?
Actually, through something called IPAWS and National Emergency Systems, we can activate. That's one of the strengths. You hear me preaching all the time about programmable all-hazard radios. The civil alert messages that go through those, that go through your cell phones, I can access that system through 2 different ways. Since I've been in Oklahoma County, I think I've activated that maybe a half dozen times. Luther Fire was one case. I activated that 3 times for evacuation notices in far eastern Oklahoma County. That hits a lot of devices. These devices are each independently owned by the jurisdiction. They operate and own their own system. In fact, we don't. We are a backup activation point for 7 or 8 cities, typically out east in Deer Creek. But these 4 will be specifically under our care because they are in the unincorporated area. As city limits change, potential annexation, whatever may occur, if a municipality were to take in an area where we have one of these devices, at that point I'd then be looking forward to maybe entering negotiations with those folks as to integrating that device into their city system. But we'll be able to activate these 4 independently from our office in multiple locations, actually. And these, by the way, do not have the voice capability. I'm not a fan of the voice capability in rural areas. I don't think it's cost-effective use. If you were at a park, at the lake, at a swimming beach, something like that, where you have potential for large numbers of people outdoors, I think it's a great tool. But out in the rural areas, it'd just be another sound outdoors that people would not have any idea what it was. I think they're hearing a voice from above or whatever, I don't know. But these are not voice-capable devices.
Other questions? Motion?
Motion to receive report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3, discussion possible action related to an update from Mr. Barnes regarding office space, including current temporary space in the annex, previously utilized space in the annex, and the use of the Kraus facility. Is there a motion to receive this document?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. I think y'all got to hit your buttons. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Mr. Barnes?
Thank you. I just wanted to bring this to your attention to kind of, again, throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. Several different items and considerations here, and I certainly won't read this document to you. You guys are all quite familiar with my operations and what emergency management is about. In overview, I do have significant concerns. We're now in week, I think, about 14 or 15 of an ongoing 2-day asbestos remediation. And I know it's not because of Mr. Ponder, Mr. Monroe, and the things that are in-house. It's kind of like plumbing. Anytime you touch one pipe, you can count on the next 2 or 3 upstream causing problems. And they've been involved in a lot of projects, doing a lot of work. We have contractor limitations, et cetera, et cetera. You guys are all familiar with those factors. But I want to throw this out because emergency management, I am biased. I will stand up for that anytime in regard to the necessity of emergency management and the need for 24/7, 365 capabilities. And we've discussed this on multiple occasions. Because the space that we have over by the jury assembly area is located in a portion of the building where there's a lot of infrastructure that comes together there. There's ongoing projects routinely that cause us to have to leave that space. I'm not going to read this to you, but I just wanted to say that we're in temporary space down the hall on floor 1 right now, which I'm in there by myself with a desk that somebody abandoned, but it's been working very well. It's quite quiet, and we don't have all these facility issues. And I would request respectfully that if possible, and I know that's an ongoing chess game, space utilization, but if there is a potential consideration of being able to retain that space and move out of the space that's over by jury assembly, I would certainly recommend that. It'd be minimal cost, minimal labor, minimal time to convert that to usable space. And it's a much better environment, much better atmosphere, less conflict with ongoing jury assembly area issues. We're weekly walking through the middle of public defender situations where attorneys are sitting there discussing sensitive information with various people that we're technically not a party to. It's my understanding that when they're doing jury selection and they have a small group in that room and they are giving instructions before they move over to the courthouse, that interruptions that I could cause just by walking through there could be a potential conflict. It could have negative implications on trials or on other things. I mean, there's just a lot of interesting things that I was not aware of, but really it's a significant inconvenience for us, significant inconvenience for the county court clerk's office and operations that are going on in there. And where we are again on the west end currently, we eliminate those issues with the exception of yesterday was quite interesting with 75 or 100 people lined up and down both sides of the hallway, but that's a minor inconvenience compared to some of the things that we deal with, particularly the construction-related issues. So I would just ask that you would indulge me by reading this document. If you have any questions, would like to discuss now or later, whatever, I'm certainly open to that at any time you wish. Any questions?
I just don't see it as possible. You got too many pros where you're at. We've got the chess match, things moving.
Understand?
It's just not possible. I think in the future, once everybody gets settled in where they're at, and you're looking at retirement, and hopefully I'm looking at retirement too, then we might get you the digs that you deserve. But as it sits right now, it's just not possible, in my opinion. I'll be the
Certainly.
dream killer.
Certainly challenges. I appreciate, and I understand that, Miles. I certainly understand those challenges, and it is a chess game.
Anyone? Bueller? Okay, motion to receive report. You can still discuss it.
Oh, we can receive it. That's
Yeah.
fine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I want to leave this item on, so if we can carry it forward to our next meeting. It provides us opportunities to discuss multiple locations, so.
My apologies. In the agenda item, I also mentioned Kraus. I would like to throw in that a definitive decision at some point would be quite helpful, so we can squash unnecessary hopes and desires and just clarify mission, clarify footprint. And I know that's something ongoing for you as well. Been in contact with the state. Apparently, in the budget process, there was some funding allocated, but the sale, the purchase, the desire to do so is one of those decisions that's far above my level, and it's been a constant source of consternation in my office as well as in others' discussions with the sheriff's office. They're certainly enjoying the convenience and the capabilities of that facility, but I would just encourage some future look, and whomever needs to make decisions, it would be of great assistance. I know in my office and probably the sheriff's office and likely others, if we can come to some kind of resolution and get a definitive plan in regard to Krause Center, it would be much appreciated.
David, I know we received your report, but in your temporary space, maybe I misunderstood this discussion from the beginning, but I was under the impression that all of your equipment was removed from the old location where the abatement is ongoing and placed in the temporary location. Is that incorrect?
That is not correct. That was the intention. Just the sheer timing of everything that was going on. I moved my computer and my desk chair and about 5% of what I had in my desk down there and have been operating out of that. Fortunately, someone had abandoned a desk and I was able to use it. Mr. Chris this morning, I believe it was telling me that that space is about to return to whatever normal is. So moving that equipment, I think at this point. Again, though, that's the whole problem with emergency management. I mean, look at the hurricane, look at any number of events, and Oklahoma County has certainly had more than our share. We could see something this afternoon that would cause us to need space, so.
Yeah, I don't know whether to be disappointed in myself that I didn't understand what was supposed to occur or that it didn't occur. I think, Miles, you said it was probably unlikely that David would be able to take that permanently down the west end. Is that correct? And kind of to go back and build on that, David, that location where you're at, the courts and all of the players were well aware that there would be from time to time needs of the county to be able to access that. So with regard to, disrupting them, I think it's a good location. It's a good setup for now until we can maybe find a different spot.
Sure.
I think it's the best alternative. But those folks were aware that there would be a need for you to access that or others, so.
Sure. And I would say it's in far better condition for that potential use now than it was when I moved my desk down there. But it is very usable space, and I certainly understand that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to ask that we strike item 4, item 9, I think, no, I'm sorry, item 14 is probably a little better suited for the discussion, I think, item 4. contemplates. That would be my motion, strike.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. 5, discussion possible action concerning landscaping improvements at the courthouse and the annex.
No update, or I'm sorry, defer to Keith.
We've removed a couple Bradford pear trees in the west courtyard. We'll look for others that need to be taken out and do so. Also, you may have noticed that in the median between the annex and Metro Parking, the trees that have been planted, the canopy is very low and should be raised in order to protect pedestrian traffic. Oklahoma City has done this on Main Street, and I'll ask them to do the same for us over here.
They might want to address the eastern side of the courthouse as well. Seems to be pretty low as well.
I don't know that that presents the same risk, maybe,
Oh, just people walking by smacking their heads on trees, no big deal.
well, I know.
Does downtown Oklahoma City contract for the median?
I'm not sure.
I know they do for, and I would add the western side of the courthouse as well to that. Were both Bradford trees threatening the shack down here?
No.
Where was the second one? I was
The
familiar with.
second one was close to the courthouse and nearer the alley here.
Okay, thank you.
Bradford pears are a nuisance. Anytime that there's wind or ice or anything, they're going to split. Everybody loves the smell of them every spring, so.
Not everybody.
In my opinion, you could take them all out.
I'll make
And
that,
are you going to make that motion to take them all out?
no, I was going to make a motion to receive his report.
Oh, it's like I was going to applaud your efforts there.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 6, discussion possible action regarding an update on capital projects specific to the TIF 2.
I have nothing new today unless there are questions.
No action. 7, discussion possible action on the TIF 2 and TIF 8 budgets.
No changes.
No action unless you all have something. 8, discussion possible action regarding ongoing space utilization, specifically west end of the first floor and the 6th floor build out. And we spent some time on emergency management already.
So, Mr. Chairman, my question would be, do we need item 3 if we have item 8? Item 8 seems to be a little bit more, I don't know.
3 was specific to EM. 8 allows us to talk about,
Everybody, and it all means, including emergency management.
anything, Stacy?
Work just continues on the design for the 6th floor, so we can get that through the state contract that we wanted to do. We just discussed emergency management. We've got a little bit of carpet cleaning and some drywall repair, and they'll be able to move back to their original space near the Drew Assembly Room. So it's just a few days' work. Paint. That's part of the drywall, yeah.
So, into next week? Do what?
The amount of work is not that much, but getting the vendor here to do it is probably the difficult task, since it's such a small amount of work.
It'll only take 2 days once we get people here.
Is there a motion to receive the optimistic 2-day
So moved.
estimate
Second.
and report? I'm sorry.
Like a herd of
I had-
turtles.
Yeah. So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 9, discussion possible action regarding the XXX stabilization project.
The river project continues to go well. We'll have an on-site meeting on it on Friday if anybody wants to attend. I think 10 o'clock on-site. The roadway project bids open on Tuesday, a week from today. And then the mitigation project, It goes out on the street this Friday for advertisement.
I'll move to receive the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
10, discuss possible action regarding Canadian River project near Wilshire Bridge west of Indian Meridian, FEMA grant opportunities, and a core study opportunity.
That work, I think for the revampment that we're doing, may finish today. And we have a final inspection scheduled for the 14th of September. I have the engineer working on the core study opportunity. I think there's maybe a conference call this afternoon to look at the possibilities of that. Plus, we do have the FEMA opportunity in the works. So there's a lot of things happening with that location.
Okay. Any other questions for Stacy? Move to receive.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 11, discussion and possible action regarding the capital improvements list.
I made all the changes that you guys requested last time, and that was attached to your agenda. And be glad to answer any questions about it.
Jail's still on there.
But there's no projects or money associated with it.
That's true.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and take that off, though?
Well, I was kind of keeping it on there so that we
Go
would
ahead.
never get it back.
Why don't we take it off so we never get it back?
We're a perfect document. If we have trouble getting that back, we're in a world of hurt.
Okay, anything else, Stacy? Thanks for
Yeah.
making those changes. All right. Want to receive his report that he updated the sheet?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 12, discussion possible action regarding OHM's job order contracting program for the juvenile justice lobby.
The contractor's actively working on that estimate for me. He's already asked for some material substitutions. He's working with our design engineer to make sure that those are okay. So far, everything he's asked for has been approved by the designer. The purpose of the substitution is to make sure the quality doesn't change, but he's getting better pricing. I don't have the pricing yet, but that I should have that in the next 7 days, I'm told, for that project. And I believe I sent you guys drawings, renderings on it about a week ago. I have copies here if I didn't, if you want to look at them again. I'm just keeping it on your radar. The big issue there, it's not funded for construction. And as soon as I get that number, I intend to take it to BET and see what they might be able to do with it.
Motion to receive report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion possible action regarding a recommendation to the BET for the approval of funds to replace two 7.5-ton rooftop air units at the detention center.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have had two air handling units on top of our D3 and D4 day rooms in the detention center go down in an emergent way where we are not able to limp those along or do any kind of repair to get them operational. We have tried. That's caused us to not be able to place any juveniles in those two units because of the temperature being too high for them to be able to live comfortably. I will say I made a mistake on this agenda item. We do not need a recommendation to the BET for this. We have this at M&O. We've requested a special budget board. We're not sure if they'll be able to grant that, but in order for us to transfer it to capital to get this done, but we do not need a recommendation to the BET. We just wanted to let you guys know and keep you guys advised of it, and we will have this on the BET so that they know that we're having to do it also on the 7th for their meeting then.
All right, Hannah, thanks for the update. So make sure I'm hearing correctly. Requested a special budget board to transfer funds from M&O to your capital,
Yes, sir.
okay? And then you're going to ask BET to place this on your watch list.
Yes, we just wanted to advise them, hey, we're having to make this purchase. If something else major comes up in the future that, greatly depletes our M&O, we just like to keep them advised of big purchases like that we have to make. We're not requesting them to fund it at this time.
All righty. Okay. Is there a motion to receive?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
14.
Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion possible action regarding condition and repairs needed to the social services building, evaluation of continued occupancy versus potential relocation. Christie, good morning.
Morning. We brought this up at the last infrastructure meeting, and just want to have some initial conversation about where we're at in terms of our facility. We're at kind of a crossroads at this point in time where the facility itself is aging and a lot of the equipment in the facility is aging. At the same time, we don't have much occupancy in the building. So it puts us at a crossroads of if we want to make repairs and bring this building up to where it would need to be, it would be a good time to think about doing that with it being largely vacant. At the same time, it's a time to look at what the cost of doing that would be and the likelihood of having potential tenants who would move in should the county proceed in that direction, versus the logic of potentially doing something different, locating in a different part of the county. It's just a discussion we wanted to start and get some guidance from.
How many square feet do you currently occupy?
We currently occupy around 8,000.
What services are there?
Well, when I say we, I mean our specific part. We also have, if you recall, RSVP and task located there. They each occupy a little over 2,000 each on top of what we occupy.
And I believe we know we need a roof and air conditioning, correct?
They're on your capital list at about $1.15 million
Total.
And
for those two items. And there could be other items that I don't know about.
And then with
There-
regard to the evaluation of the space, who could conduct that to give us an idea of what we would need to do, invest to bring that building up to modern standards?
Well, you could hire an architectural firm to do that work. If you wanted an absolute real close number, or facilities and engineering together could get a ballpark number going through the facility.
That design work or identification would be predicated on the use of the building. So if you had a particular use, the design or form would follow.
Well, we currently have 3 tenants out there, and the building is functional, but probably not to the standard it needs to be. So that would give you an idea of at least where to start. And then in terms of the use of the remainder of the space, it's been very much, unless I don't remember correctly, very much what it's currently being utilized is, and that's as space for tenants to provide social service programs. So I don't know that,
That could be easily done if the use were to remain the same.
well, I think basing some kind of evaluation on current use and past use will at least get us a number that we can begin to look at. Are we looking at $1.5 million? inclusive of the AC and the roof? Are we looking at $3 million? I think that then gives us an idea of what we need to discuss going forward.
So, questions. Keith, Christie, one of you, maybe. What's the operational cost of this building per year? To heat, operate, maintenance?
At full capacity, and including, are you including staff? Are you looking for including,
No, just what does it cost to operate the building?
for M&O and capital, around 50, and then utilities, around 40 to 50.
What? Okay, so okay, that would be part of the maintenance and operation of the building. Okay. What's that additional cost? So you're at 100 right now. So I'm assuming probably $45,000, $50,000 employee, so you're looking at 20% on top of that.
Right, and I need to get that number for you. But our staffing was historically based on the building being completely full.
Right.
And so we still have that level of staffing, but they're doing different duties than when we were full because the needs are different now. Now it's a lot more about maintaining the condition of the building and some of them crossing over into some other service areas.
How much for this remote location do we spend per year for the bus route to get out there?
That is a little, Terry, is it 115,000? And just to be clear on that, the purpose of the county sustaining that route was never necessarily about us having transportation to our location. It was to service the northeast quadrant. But that was one of the requirements of that, is that it would service our location as well.
Yeah, that, as you probably know, that route serves Mary Mahoney, which is a critical healthcare provider to the northeastern community.
Yeah, that's one of the higher poverty areas that otherwise does not have bus coverage.
Now, RSVP, I'm very familiar with. They used to be downtown here in the old Pubco building, right next to the
correct.
YMCA.
Yep.
Task, I'm not sure who they are or what they do, or what their mission is, so I don't know what kind of facility or location would be good for them. But I'm thinking that since we just had square footage open up at the juvenile detention center from CASA and some of the others leaving, that this might be a perfect opportunity for you to move to a much better facility. I mean, I could be wrong here, but I think the highest and best use for something that we're already spending to maintain and operate, that's already in much better condition, may be a more responsible use of taxpayer money.
How much space is that?
I'm not sure what the square footage is on that floor.
It's an entire floor though, correct? Isn't the entire top floor, fourth floor, is vacant?
Yeah,
So-
Miles, I appreciate that, but I don't know that is or isn't at this point a good location. And to consider any possibility of relocating social services until we have an idea of whether or not that building is salvageable, et cetera. But with regard to task, I'm not sure that they would be a good co-location.
What do they do?
It is an outreach group by Pastor Manning in Midwest City that works to prevent youths from gang involvement. So I'm not,
No, I would think moving that into a juvenile detention center
Well,
may or may not be good.
So the juvenile center, I mean, her building has the legal authority. It's not being used for that's specific to that building. So if you move her to juvenile, it'd just be her. You're not obligated to provide space to task for ours.
I believe the task would have to continue to be, I'm not positive, but I think they would have to stay in the northeast area based on the activities that they do. And they also have begun a job assistance program recently and are working with older youth as well, so just FYI. But I do think that they, at this stage, need to be in the northeast.
Well, I think some of these questions would be answered if we could get an idea of what the investment in the building to continue to use it would be. So,
Yeah.
You can build a brand-new brick-and-mortar building for $120 a square foot. So with her needs, we could build a brand-new building for $1 million, put it out there at Lincoln, which is her site, that a very desirable site for her as far as location. Embark's already changing their bus routes or making any modifications for the new homelands that's opening up tomorrow out there. It's a real central location. I mean, lots of access. We need a new parking lot out there anyway for county election board. You get a twofer on doing that.
That's not a terrible idea either.
Sell off that space out there, that property, use that money too. Just carve out. The treasurer has the maintenance facility out there, right?
Next to social services,
Yeah, so put a drive-through for your pharmacy. I mean, brand-new building, maintenance costs would go down. Utilities go way down. It's a great location. Lincoln, if they ever move, we could rent that building. It'd be high demand.
One of the things that I had looked at, just for your information, is in the event that we need to look at another location, I had gone through and looked at what are the areas of the county that have the highest poverty and the poorest health outcomes, and those were two things that typically go hand in hand. I looked at the top, or the bottom 10, and kind of mapped those out, and then brought that down to 4 that are kind of centralized. So I've got sort of a rectangle of geographical area that I think would be appropriate for us to look at, which would be on the north, would be Wilshire, on the south, Reno, on the east, Bryant or Sooner, and on the west, Santa Fe. So I'm just making you aware that that geographical area would be appropriate in terms of where the client base would be.
Charles, your suggestion is a good one, I think, at least looking at that. We've long talked about utilizing that property for other purposes. One of was Langston had wanted, of course, we wouldn't have built it for him, but we had considered selling them a portion of that property. I think that's a very good thought. That once I don't know that we couldn't look at both options concurrently, what it might cost, a rough guesstimate to build a location there, and while we're also getting the cost to renovate and bring up to standards the property that we currently have being utilized. So I guess motion to instruct staff to begin the process of completing those 2 tasks.
So
I'd like
moved.
to add a third. I don't know what the problem with putting them at the juvenile detention center would be. I mean, especially Christie. I mean,
Well, you
I
and
get the
I-
RSVP and the task, and I think the task thing is something that, I think we have other buildings that we're currently paying for that are not being used, that are in much better shape for them to reside in, with classroom space and everything that they could possibly that former Spencer State Bank, and it's still on the northeast side. I think the opportunities are there for them to be in a better facility. If I remember correctly, your original ask was you wanted to be closer to downtown anyway.
But
This was
not
years ago.
more of, yeah, just more of an area where the poverty rates are higher, but not so far downtown that access is a problem for our population. Task currently occupies, we have we've got our main building, and behind that, we've got a small cinder block building, and Task actually occupies that building because that allows them to have activities outside of our normal operating hours, so they kind of have their own contained space there that they use. So they're not in our main building, but they're on our campus and in one of our buildings.
All right, so we have a motion. Miles, do you have an amendment you want to propose?
Yeah, I'd just like to do a cost-benefit analysis for future occupancy of the 3 locations mentioned for social services and any ancillary or SVPs or tasks.
And beyond the just dollars of that cost analysis, it also needs to include the ability to serve the community in which she's trying to serve.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
parking, getting in and out of buildings, et cetera. And I know you're cognizant of that, but just want to make sure staff's aware. Are you good with that amendment?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Citizens' participation, anybody? Board comments? Charles?
None.
Miles?
None. Well, there's a bunch of mystery.
New business? None. Adjourn.
Motion, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2 minutes and we'll switch over.
I think the legalities of them being inside of our building are kind of interesting as well.
That took too long.
Now, if they were in a PBA building?
Okay. Being past the time, I'll call the PBA Advisory Committee to order. Notice meeting was properly posted August 27th. Item 1 is discussion and possible action on the minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm going to skip over item 2 for the time being because we have an executive session item dealing with the subject. 3, discussion possible action on an update from facilities management on Kraus.
Nothing new?
No action. 4, update on the Lincoln property.
Nothing new?
No action. 5, update on the Investors Capital Building.
Nothing new?
Security. There is something new. A couple of things. The bathrooms on 1 and 2 have forced the entire court services over here to this building. So I've got questions. One, and it's fortuitous that Mr. Basden's here, but can we get on the 3rd floor, can we at least get access for Grant and his people to badge into the restrooms that are behind badge access?
Yes.
Okay, so you can work with Captain Basin and get that done
Okay.
by the end of next week, hopefully?
Sure.
Thank you. Secondarily, it's come to my attention that we have people moving on the first floor.
Yes.
Those individuals were some of the individuals that did not like the security proposal that we had the first time because it would have relocated them, correct?
One or two spoke to that.
So I'd like to broach that subject again and start looking at that again to make that a secured building.
That train's left the station.
It-
They've had those discussions, and I think there's a drawing, correct?
Yeah.
A new plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See
So
how
we'll,
quick
Way-
when
way to
you
get on
ask,
that,
it's
Keith.
done.
yeah, sure. We'll put a specific agenda item on to discuss that very subject.
Okay. Sounds great.
Okay.
Well done.
All right. He beat 2 days.
Okay.
Okay, fast.
What else do you want?
Right? Yeah. Sure. Motion to receive report.
Second.
Thanks, Keith.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
What did I-
6, an update on our parking garages from Mr. Monroe.
Miles? As far as I know, we've got the same
Cameras.
things happening. Nothing else new.
Was that a real report? And
Nope.
If so, do you want to
Okay.
receive it?
Nope.
Okay. Citizens' participation, board comments. Charles?
None.
Miles?
Nope.
None here. Is there a motion to recess into executive session?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Where you were, yeah, I brought it up and said I wanted it reconsidered again. Okay.
Are we doing it in here or?
Was it Houston or Disney or I don't?
Don't make it sound like I'm calling.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I
Are we
meant
going
like,
into the little room or are we doing it?
I don't even remember.
Right there.
We've got people's.
That way we don't inconvenience them.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we return from executive session.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion regarding our executive session item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we proceed as discussed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion
Okay.
to adjourn.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Boy.
Come on. You can do it.